Well guys, as you saw in my previous video, me and Easy Gamer picked up an absolutely insane lot. We spent $700 for the lot, and we split it in half, so everything you're about to see in the video cost me $350. Right now I've got a box of junk games. Aside from that, I've got a giant box filled with games that are worth over 15 bucks. Now I'm gonna go through it and figure out what I want to keep and what I want to get rid of. And I figure I'd do that in real time with you guys. Okay, first up, I ended up siphoning out all the good stuff I wanted from the junk box. I'm not gonna bore you guys with going through every single game from there because, yeah. But here's everything I wanted to keep. Croc 2 on Game Boy Color. Columns on Genesis, which I have seen complete in box before at a GameStop. Porky Pig on SNES. Never heard of it. Chakan on Genesis. Darkstone on PS1, which I have seen before in the wild sealed. They wanted a little bit too much money for it. It always looked like a game that would interest me, and it also just looks like a game that would be more expensive than it is, but really great pickup there. Oh, this I accidentally put here. This is just a case. I actually traded Easy Gamer something for this, so that's just completely separate. Rise of the Kasai. Zapper. Slowly but surely, I'm on my journey to try and get... Actually, hold on, now that I'm looking at this, I'm trying to get every single 3D platformer on the PS2. However, I'm looking at it, and this is actually what looks to be a Frogger-style game, which, you know, I'm not too disappointed with that, because I really love Frogger 2 on the PS1. I think that's one of the greatest platformers of all time, so not a bad pickup. And speaking of Frogger, I got this hideous monstrosity of nature here, and I've also got, it looks like to be, I remember in the Chicken Little movie, there was like a parody action movie in the movie itself, so this is a game based on that. It's probably great. And then lastly, from the junk bin, Ridge Racing Evolution on PS2. Yeah, not bad pickups from the junk bin. Now let's get into the good stuff. Okay, first up we got a really clean Game Boy Advance. I've been meaning to get another good condition Game Boy Advance in my collection for a while, especially one where the labels on the back are in good condition, and the screen doesn't really have any scratches on it, so that is nice to have. Next up, we got a VMU unit. I'm definitely going to be keeping this. I do like the Sega Dreamcast. I'm not too gung-ho on collecting for it, but when I do see something I like and when I can get it for very cheap, I will keep it. And getting a brand new VMU in the box, that's pretty cool. I'm going to be keeping that. Next up, definitely something I'm going to be keeping. The Crash Bandicoot Action Pack on PS2. It was almost fully sealed, but the seal was broken here. But everything's in super good condition on it, so definitely keeping this and adding it to my Crash Bandicoot collection. Next up, we got Spirits and Spells, which is a GameCube game I've never heard of, but apparently it is pretty valuable, so that was cool to pick up. Next up, Luigi's Mansion. I think it was complete in box. Yes, it was. If this was a Black Label copy, I would keep it. This is a game I want at some point, but I do not collect any Player's Choice or Greatest Hits variants. Next up, Twisted Metal Black. I have this game already, have yet to play it. Castlevania Lament of Innocence. The Thing on PS2. I really love the movie. I will definitely be keeping this. In fact, for now, I'm going to put my keep pile over here. Alright, next up, Scooby-Doo Night of 100 Frights. I used to have this when I was a kid. I've been meaning to get it again. Now I got it. Spider-Man 2 on PS2. Clock Tower 3. Disc only, but in the Hollywood video case. Oh, looks like it's kind of just loose in there. Yeah, not a bad pickup at all there. Ended up getting NFL Street, which actually is still sealed. So, really can't complain about that. Midnight Club 3. Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks, which if I remember correctly, this isn't a fighting game. This is like an action-adventure game or something, starring Kung Lao and Liu Kang, so interesting. Next up got Ultimate Spider-Man, which I do have the Black Label version of, but still a cool game to pick up. Next up got Evil Dead Fistful of Boomsticks, or Fistful of Boomstick. I do have the other Evil Dead game, so you know what, I'll keep this one. Next up got the Harry Potter PS2 collection. This is still actually sealed, so that's cool. I mean, I'm not really a fan of any of the Harry Potter games. I'm sure another collector is going to want that way more than I will. Next up, got another one of those PS2 collection games. I got the Pac-Man Power Pack. I'm not really a super huge fan. Actually, I do need Pac-Man World 3, but I'm not going to take it out of this one, so I'm going to pass on that one for now. Next up, got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Smash Up. I've picked up the Wii version of this game tons of times. I didn't know there was a PS2 version, but yep, there's a PS2 version. Next up, got Goosebumps on the PS2. Robotech Battle Cry, which is still sealed. Also got Metal Slug Anthology, which is a game I've been looking for a long time. Specifically, I was looking for the PSP version, but at this point, I don't have a PSP that even has a working UMD drive anymore, and I'd rather just have the PS2 version at this point anyways, so I'm gonna just keep this one. And then last PS2 game, ended it with a good one, Kingsfield the Ancient City. No manual on it, but still, not a game I've ever seen in the wild, so I'm definitely going to be keeping this. Actually, I think there is one more PS2 game, and it's a good one too. Drakengard on the PS2. I think it is complete. Yes, it is. I'll be keeping this as well. So that's it for the PS2 section. I'll move on to PS1 games, and I think there's a few others as well. Got a copy of Fade to Black. No idea what this game is. Battle Arena to Shinden 2. I have the jewel case variant, but this copy is just freaking thrashed. Got Rise 2 Resurrection. I actually don't like collecting long box PS1 games. I just think they're kind of obnoxiously huge. I don't think there's a single long box game I'd actually want to play. So I'm not really keen on keeping these. Also got Shockwave Assault, and I think that's it for all the long box stuff. There's also a loose disc of Bloody Roar 2. Well, I guess technically it does have the cover art, but it's been torn in half, so I'm just gonna count that as a loose disc. Next up, got a good one. Wu-Tang on the Wu-Tang on the PS1. I'm not a Wu-Tang fan at all. I couldn't name you a single Wu-Tang song, but I know this is a pretty valuable game. Next up, got Time Crisis. I don't have any light guns at all. One day I do want to get them so I can play some light gun games, but anyways, got Time Crisis here. Got Tokyo Highway Battle. Got Tecmo Super Bowl, which a year ago I would have thought this was a completely worthless game, but on the PS1 it's got some okay value. Except I thought it was called Power Slap because the sticker's in the way, but it is Power Slave. We got Bushido Blade 2, which I have the first one, have yet to play it, so not really keen on keeping this one yet. Got Mortal Kombat Trilogy. I have the Black Label version already. I actually got it in a GameStop about a year ago. So, definitely gonna pass on this one. Got this Aladdin game on PS1. Got Star Wars Masters, which I was hesitant on keeping this, but you know what? I think I am gonna keep it. I know it's supposed to be like a really corny, like Star Wars fighting game, yeah, whatever. Street Fighter Alpha 3, Star Wars Dark Forces, Fear Effect. This is a game I used to have in my collection, but honestly, at this point, I don't really collect games that have tank controls. I just hate playing them. Magic the Gathering on PS1. Spawn the Eternal. I think Spawn's a cool character, but I really don't know anything about the comics or the lore or anything like that. If I did, maybe I'd keep it, but I'm sure someone else is going to want that a lot more than I am. And this is a game I've never heard of. Toonenstein Dare to Scare. I know it's based on Looney Tunes, like the Tiny Toons Adventures, but I don't know anything about this. Next up, got Jedi Power Battles. I've never played it before. If it was Black Label, I might have kept it, but yeah. Next up, got Ape Escape. This is one I picked up recently. I have the Black Label version. Really no reason for me to have this. And the same thing goes for the Legend of Dragoon. Next up, got The Lost World on PS1. I like the first Jurassic Park a lot. I think it's a really great movie. I think everything after that is just terrible. Next up, got Medieval, which I bought this at a thrift store for like $30 a couple months ago. I was with Easy Gamer, so I wish I would have held off because I could have gotten it here for way cheaper. But it's a great game. I really like playing it. I didn't know anything about it going into it, but there was also Medieval 2 in this collection, which I will definitely be keeping. Next up, got Dino Crisis 2. I recently just came across a loose disc of this game, so it's cool seeing the complete box copy. Next up, got Rainbow Six Lone Wolf, which wouldn't normally be in a box of $15 games, but this one is still sealed, so not too bad. Same thing goes for this one, Medal of Honor Underground. It is still sealed. Next up, we got Martian Gothic. Never heard of it. Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver. Cool game. Really, really fantastic voice acting. I want the Dreamcast version at some point, though, just because the frame rate on the PS1 version is atrocious. I'm sure it plays a lot better on Dreamcast. Next up, got Monster Rancher 2. Xena Warrior Princess. This is actually a game I have in my collection. If I remember correctly, I played it for a little bit. This is like in a very early character action game, kind of like Devil May Cry, if I'm not mistaken. I could be completely wrong on that, but more fun than it has any right to be. Next up, got Rampage World Tour, Loaded, Spot Goes to Hollywood, Animorphs, the video game. Okay. X-Men Mutant Academy 2. Spider-Man on PS1. If this was Black Label, I would have kept it. Same thing goes for Tomb Raider. Spyro the Dragon. The Mummy, which I still haven't seen the movie. Heart of Darkness. I will be keeping this. From what I know, this is sort of like a cinematic platformer game. I've played some of the Oddworld games before. I think they're pretty cool. I assume this is in the similar vein. Oh yeah, here's a good one. Metal Gear Solid. I had the Greatest Hits version a long time ago. I've been meaning to find a Black Label version of this game for a long time, so it's nice to finally get it. Next, I've got some loose discs for Alone in the Dark on PS1. King of Fighters 99. I remember playing one of the King of Fighters games in the arcade machine that was in like a pizza restaurant in Newport. Used to play that thing religiously. I don't know, nowadays, I don't really like traditional fighters that much, except for one that's coming up later. But yeah, really no reason to keep this for me. Next I've got Star Gladiator. Gauntlet Legends. Again, this is a game I just bought like a few months ago. Wish I would have held out on it, but it's a fun game. Next up, got Resident Evil. I think it's a cool game in concept, but just the tank controls, man, I can't play these games with tank controls anymore. Next up, got one of my favorite games of all time, Crash Bandicoot. Next up, I got Easy Gamer's favorite game of all time, Twisted Metal 2. Or, I don't know if it's the favorite of all time, but it's one of them. Next up, got Small Soldiers. Never saw the movie. Next up, got Tekken. If only this was the Black Label. Next up, got Twisted Metal 3. I've heard this is like the worst one ever. I could be wrong on that, but I'm not really a Twisted Metal fan, so. Next up, got Ninja Shadow of Darkness. Got the first Twisted Metal here. Woody Woodpecker Racing. I am chilling on that one. Need for Speed Porsche. Porsche something. Porsche Unleashed. Planet of the Apes. I did not know this had a video game. At least not back in the early 2000s, 99, what was it? 2002. A 2002 PS1 game. That's how you know it's quality. Capcom vs SNK Pro. If I didn't already have the Dreamcast version, I would have kept this. Tekken 2, which I already had the Black Label copy. Vigilante 8, which I feel like this is like the 10th time oh, this is the sequel. Never mind. Fighting Force. Tekken 3, since it is the Black Label, I will be keeping this for my collection. Gex 3, Black Label, I'm keeping that for my collection. Running Wild. Now, this is a game I would skip just because it doesn't seem that interesting. It looks like an on-foot racer. The reason I'm keeping it is because it's got a direct advertisement, sort of, for Crash Bandicoot on it. That's pretty much the only reason I'm keeping it. I mean, I'll play it one day and see if it's any good, but that's just cool to me that Crash Bandicoot, the logo is just on the cover of this random game. Next up, I did a trade with Easy for some, I don't remember what I traded him for, but he ended up giving me Ocarina of Time for something. Next up, got Disruptor. I don't think this is supposed to be a good game. However, I think it is Insomniac's first game they ever developed, and I want to at some point have every single Insomniac game, so I will need this. And this is what I was talking about earlier. Marvel vs. Capcom on Dreamcast. I don't usually play traditional fighters, but I have an exception with Marvel vs. Capcom and Marvel vs. Capcom 2. I love these games. I'm terrible at them, but they just look cool, and they're just pretty chaotic. I really love them. Next I've got Soul Calibur, Soul Fighter, Blue Stinger, a loose disc for Dino Crisis, and finally, Wipeout 3, which I'm gonna keep. Well, I really couldn't be much happier with the buy, guys. I got to keep a lot of stuff. This is way more stuff than I'm usually able to keep. When you're able to buy giant lots of games on the low, you're able to do a lot with it, man. So I'm gonna be adding all this to my collection and then getting rid of all of this. And you know what? I'm gonna spread the wealth. This is gonna be on my eBay page for $999. The first person to message me about it, asking for it for $5, you can have it for $5 free shipping. So, good luck out there.